Well, David, I wouldn't say that Jensen was so confident of a win that he'd already written that script that he delivered at the end, but he certainly said lovely words, and you can understand why this is the sweetest victory so far of this season for him, because they weren't expecting it, were they?
Yeah, they certainly weren't so happy during the Friday practice sessions. Some issues with cooling that EJ's just mentioned, which has an effect on the aerodynamics of the car. Nonetheless, they stuck to their programme, stuck to running with fuel through Friday, concentrating on obviously the most important part of the weekend, which is the race result. Toyota obviously went for gold with the qualifying setup, but ultimately you count the winners at the end, and Jensen's now got 3 out of 4 victories in the start of the season.
Absolutely fantastic for Jensen Button, and Lewis Hamilton might not have any victories to his name so far, but he too can be mighty delighted with 4th place today, and we can now hear his thoughts on the race. Here he is.
Lewis, that's looked a bit of a battle in the desert out there. Disappointed not to be in the podium, or delighted with 4th?
No, I'm delighted with 4th. I think considering we started 5th, we moved up 1 place. We had a great start, and it was just so hard to keep up with the guys. With the Red Bull, Vettel was so fast, and the Toyotas and Braun, they're just so fast in the fast corners, so it was impossible for me. So we just got to do a lot more work, keep pushing, but it's definitely good points for the team.
This is the kind of first normal race that we've had, no safety cars, no rain. What have you learned about the car that you didn't know before?
Not much. It was just a long race. I learned that it can be very hot in this heat, but bit by bit I'm learning more, and I think I'm able to give the team a little bit more of direction on where we need to improve. So throughout the race, when you're behind people, you learn a lot. So it's a good one.
Well, we talked about how much Lewis Hamilton would learn being in a car that isn't as fast as he's used to this season, and I think we're learning that Lewis Hamilton is a driver that can deliver regardless of the vehicle, Eddie.
I thought he was extraordinarily good in the last race in Shanghai. I thought he drove like a world champion, and he's endorsed that here again today. Clearly he has a car. We saw what his teammate is able to do, so just look what Hamilton, in my opinion, is doing everything that he should do as a current world champion.
Now, this sport can be confusing, DC, at the very best of times. We all came into this season saying with new regulations there's going to be huge gaps between all of the different cars. They're as close as ever, and McLaren is showing that if they can just make small improvements, they can really start leaping up there.
Well, indeed, they've moved this car along a lot since the first race in Melbourne. If you look at the front wing, for instance, I think they're on their 4th iteration. I don't think that there should be any doubt going into the season whether Hamilton had the skills to race the socks off the car, irrespective of how quick it was relative to the competition. I think they'll be delighted with that result today. It gives them a good solid base, and the gap is getting ever smaller.
Stay with us and we'll bring you the thoughts of the top 3 drivers in the drivers' press conference very shortly. That press conference once again won't feature a Ferrari driver, but they've got fair reason to be pretty happy today. They've scored some points, Eddie, so the relief is this isn't the worst start ever to Ferrari's season.
Well, leave the history books out of this for a moment. They have to think about where they are and how they're going to progress. We've already talked about a huge management change here, and that's dislodges the whole mind of where they're going. They're going to be fine, but it will not be this year where they're going to fight for the championship. It now looks between Braun, Toyota, and you'd have to say Red Bull. It really does look strong for those 3 teams.
And talk about pressure. Luca de Montezemolo was here from Ferrari. He's the main Ferrari president. If ever you want to have a good drive for Kimi Raikkonen, it's now, isn't it?
Yeah, he's had his strongest drive of the season. He was a little bit asleep, I think, at his last pit stop. Got passed by Glock, but was able to make good use of his care system to retake that position. But I think it's fascinating to see de Montezemolo, after so many years being involved in Formula One, is hanging his head over the pit wall. Such a fan of motorsport. It's really within his heart, and it's within obviously the DNA of Ferrari.
Well, talking of being a fan of motorsport, Jensen Button looked at times last season like he'd had enough of Formula One. I'm sure he doesn't feel like that right now. Let's get his thoughts now. He's in the drivers' press conference. OK, well, let's confirm the results of the 2009 Bahrain Grand Prix for you. And I think we should ask, gentlemen, driver of the day, who would you go for, Eddie, DC?
Well, I've got to give you 2. Jensen, fantastic attack at the beginning of the lap to overtake Lewis, and I'm going to say Lewis as well, because throughout all the difficulties he's had, that's his strongest showing to date, and he's leading that team forward.
Agreed with most of that. I think we'd have to stick Vettel in there, young driver, and this is again a test to see, what is he like in the dry conditions. We see him dominating the wet. This was a big race for him. He kept truly behind. I'd add him to that group that DC has just talked about, because he deserves it.
OK, then at the back of the grid there we can see Giancarlo Fisichella and Adrian Sutil for Force India, followed by the Toro Rosso of Sebastian Buemi. And the worst news of the day, look at that, Robert Kubica and Nick Heidfeld in 18th and 19th place, and Kazuki Nakajima, of course, he didn't finish the race today. He was the only DNF of a very hot Grand Prix. So let's now confirm how that affects the drivers' standings, and you can see Jenson Button there, 31 points for Brawn GP, Rubens Barrichello just 16 behind with 19, then Sebastian Vettel a point behind Rubens, Jarno Trulli with 14.5, and Lewis Hamilton 7th place there, he's got 9 points so far, followed by Fernando Alonso, who of course this week didn't write off Renault's title challenge, and Nick Heidfeld, no good news for him, he stays on 4 points, and also Heikki Kovalainen, no points for him as well today, that's 4. But take a look at that, Brawn GP almost double the number of points of the closest challenger, Red Bull, with 27.5. Toyota a point behind Red Bull, followed by McLaren with 13 points. And then down at the bottom there, Ferrari with 3 points. And it's definitely worth a mention, Ferrari, what a relief about those 3 points for them. But of course, it is Brawn who are dominant over Red Bull first of all, and then Toyota. How much is this a missed opportunity for Toyota today? We saw a pretty downcast looking Jarno Trulli actually as he pulled in at the end of the race, Eddie.
I think they made a mistake. He alluded to that in the interview there. He went too long in the middle stint on the hard tyre, and he lost his position, his track position. He made it easy for Vettel to be in second place today, and I think probably Toyota will look back at this and see it was an error.
And how will Red Bull assess Sebastian Vettel's race up to second place?
Oh, they're happy with that result. It's a good solid result given the knowledge that they've got the double diffuser coming in later in the season. I think just coming back onto the Toyota situation with Trulli, they simply weren't quick enough to win this race today. They were quick enough to go on pole with lighter fuel load, but they don't have that race pace to beat the Brawn car or the Red Bull at this time.
OK, so we've done the East, so we now head back to Europe. It's probably worth getting your thoughts about how you think the rest of this season's going to pan out. It's been remarkable how all the teams have stuck so close together. Loads of developments, and we all saw that Brawn GP weren't definite they were going to get a win here today. As we head to Europe, it's shaping up just perfectly.
Indeed, and we've got the big test of their performance for the drivers coming up in Monaco in 2 races' time. But going back to Barcelona for the next Grand Prix, it's a track that everyone knows very well. The testing form is usually dictated by the performance around there. Brawn were quickest in winter testing, so they've got to be very confident going to that circuit.
And of course the teams that need to really pull their finger out, you're looking at BMW, Ferrari, McLaren look like they're doing OK, but it's still going to be a big few races for some of the big teams with a lot of money to spend in this sport, Eddie.
BMW have to seriously go in front of a big mirror and have a look at themselves, see what they're doing. What they've done today is shocking, in my view, and the drivers have rightly come out and criticised the team for not development. OK, fantastic. Just to remind you that to see highlights of this race, you can join us on BBC 3 at 7 o'clock this evening. And Monday evening, whatever you do, don't miss Inside Sport. It's going to be a good one. Join Gabby Logan. She'll have AP McCoy in the studio. She also talks to Didier Drogba. Well, we're about to disappear onto the red button. There's an awful lot still to talk about. We want to have a look at all of the big moments during the race. So if you press the red button right now, you can join us, or drop us an email to f1@bbc.co.uk. Well, it was a decision made out in the East that left us wondering if Jenson Button would even have a seat in Formula One this season, and it's the decisions Brawn have taken in the East that means as we return to Europe, Jenson Button and Brawn are the team to beat. See you in 2 weeks.